I've covered a small handful of Western themed games on this channel: Red Dead Revolver, Gun, Darkwatch, and while I dove more and more into the history of Western themed video games, I found out that there really isn't that many. So today, I'm going to dive into a few Western games that are worth mentioning and worth checking out. My aim was to find unique games that use Western themes in a neat way. And while I only cover 5 in this video, there are of course many more games out there worth a look at, so feel free to hit me with some comments. With that being said, here's 5 unique Westerns you probably haven't played. Alright, before we actually start, I want to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Opera GX Browser. I've been using Opera GX for several months now, and I'm happy that they reached out for this opportunity because really, it's gonna be easy, considering that I love this thing. Switching over from Chrome was super easy. Opera has a quick import tool that brings over all your bookmarks, your cookies, your browser history, quickly applying your comfort settings to Opera. Also, your extensions that you were using on Chrome are all fully functional within the Opera browser. You just cross them over easy peasy. But perhaps my favorite thing is this sidebar. All your socials are at a glance and integrated into the sidebar, and I personally only use Discord and Twitter, but they have Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and many more, making having another program or another tab open completely unnecessary, which is good for someone like me who does not like clutter. You can also integrate your media player like Spotify, offering again another way to minimize and get everything tidy. The music also pauses automatically when the browser starts playing sound, like on a YouTube video. Opera GX is also available on mobile phones to replace your browsing habits there, and it links up with the desktop version flawlessly. I strongly suggest that you try out Opera GX today. It's dope as hell and it's free to try. Like I said, I used this for months on my own volition, and it truly is a great browser all around. Click the link in the description to get started today. Again, it's entirely free, it's dope as hell, and it helps me out, so check it out. Thank you to Opera for sponsoring this video. Now on with the Westerns. Developed by Human Head Studios and published by Atari in March of 2004, Dead Man's Hand was released on the Xbox and the PC. Dead Man's Hand is a first-person shooter, and now that may sound boring up front, the game has quite a bit to offer. The story is quite the cliché tale of an outlaw named El Tejan betrayed by his own gang, the Notorious Nine, due to the fact that he'd rather not kill women and children. The leader of this gang, Tennessee Vic, shoots him and leaves him for dead, but of course, the man doesn't die and instead starts on a path of vengeance. As El Tejan, you go through mission by mission hunting away at your 8 former comrades. The levels of the game are rather short and arcadey in a way, but the environments are both thematically appropriate and really interesting and varied to keep gameplay spicy. You got your ghost towns, your saloons, your riverboats, your brothels, your graveyards, and your mine shafts, all standard fanfare when it comes to the Western genre. A lot of the levels come off sort of as a shooting gallery type game, especially the levels where you're on horseback. It sort of feels like an on-rails shooter as you go through the levels shooting at your enemies. The shooting is really well done and satisfying, motivating you to hit headshots or otherwise difficult shots or trick shots in order to get a higher score and unlock unique firing abilities, like fanning a revolver. Before each level starts, you play a poker hand in order to get certain perks like additional ammo or health. This is where the name of the game comes from. Dead Man's Hand is a poker hand consisting of a pair of black aces and black eights, along with an unknown card in the hole. Supposedly, it's the hand that Wild Bill Hickok had at the time that he was shot in the back of the head. While this game didn't blow away any reviewers out there were quite a few of you in the comments of previous videos who recommended this game, and I can see why. The game has charm for what it is. It's a solid few hours of arcade shooting. As far as I know, there's no legitimate way to get this game as a download on PC, so emulation or pirating is your best bet. But there's also buying the original Xbox copy to play on the original Xbox if you so fancy.
In the retro wastes of Westerado, you are the law, and it's up to you to find the man that killed your family.
Westerado Double Barreled is an indie gem of a game developed by Ostrich Banditos and published by Adult Swim Games. It's an open world top-down shooter released in April of 2015 on the PC and a year later on the Xbox One. The story of Westerado, like most westerns, revolves around a tale of revenge. The main character has his family murdered and his family ranch set on fire by a mysterious desperado. With the style and grace of any known gunslinger, he's off to find find the killer and avenge his family. The super cool concept that this game has going for it is that the murderer is one of many procedurally generated characters within the game, assembled with various details such as clothing and body type. Using vague clues and hints found throughout the game, by talking to NPCs and doing missions and favors, you are able to piece together the description of the killer and find them. You don't have to take the friendly cowboy route either. You can pull out your gun at any point and interrogate anyone and even kill any NPC in the game. But doing so may put you at a disadvantage and leave you with no further information on the killer. And on top of that, the fact that you're killing individuals, you make other people associated with them rather unkind to you in return. Another fantastic point that this game has going for it is the soundtrack. It's just dope as fuck. You wouldn't think a retro pixel graphic type game like this has a fleshed out soundtrack, but boy it does. It has sounds from live banjos, trumpets, saloon pianos, and more to beef up the tracks of the game. The game is relatively short, like a few hours short, but it does offer quite a bit of replayability, with the killer being a newly generated character every time, and you being able to vary up your actions on how you approach the NPCs in the game. Are you going to be a good guy or are you going to be a bad guy? The ending of the game also varies on your actions, giving a different reason for the killer killing your family and burning the ranch down in the first place, reflecting on what type of character you choose to play as. It's honestly a super cool game, much deeper than anticipated at first glance, and as this is a much more modern game, it is available most everywhere. But as always, I will plug my GOG affiliate link in the description if you're interested in picking it up. Using my code and the link in the description below will also get you an additional 45% off the game. So thank you to the developers and the publishers for that.
I can taste your hatred. It's like a fine wine. I look forward to getting drunk with it. In combat. Come on, samurai boy.
HammerWestern is an action-adventure game developed by Japanese game studio Acquire, known for the games Tenchu and Way of the Samurai, or more recently Octopath Traveler. This game was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2005. This game is in fact a side story of the Way of the Samurai series, switching focus from the adventure style of the series to being much more action-focused, damn near encroaching on hack and slash territory. This game follows the samurai Gojiro Kiru, who travels to America in the 1800s to find and kill his brother Rando, who has strayed off from the honorable path of the samurai. Not quite the tale of revenge in prior games, but similar enough all the same. Upon arriving in the Old West, Gojiro discovers the entire area is under the rule of a man named Goldberg, including his brother Rando. The gameplay in this game is super satisfying. As a samurai who shuns weapons like firearms, you will run headfirst into your enemies sword in hand, ready to slice and dice the competition. But this being the Wild West in the 1800s, everyone's got a gun, so much of the combat involves deflecting bullets with your sword. This game also has a neat co-op mode where instead of another samurai with the same skill set being used as player 2, an entirely different character is made. Ralph, a gunslinger who instead of deflecting and dodging around is given a gun to take out enemies from a distance, assisting his samurai companion in killing all the baddies. This game garnered some mixed reviews at release, but really most of the complaints were simply due to the very short playtime and lack of variety in combat. But for the few hours it takes to beat this game, it's well worth your time. Unfortunately, as a PS2 only release, your only options for playing it today is buying the game resale on original hardware or, of course, emulation.
I don't understand all this samurai business.
A samurai lives and dies for honor. That is what it means to be samurai.
Beautiful, but so sad. I don't ever understand, man.
Yeah, it's Secto. Secto, Big Boss the River. What we do for you?
Perhaps the most unique game on this list is Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, developed by Oddworld Inhabitants and published by EA for the Xbox in 2005. Where Samurai Western is the PS2 exclusive on this list, Stranger's Wrath is the Xbox side of that coin. Although this game has been re-released in every console imaginable since its initial release, including mobile phones. In this game you play as Stranger, a bounty hunter out to raise as much money as possible to pay off a mysterious life-saving operation that he needs to survive. Stranger travels through 3 different towns throughout the game: Gizzard Gulch, Buzzarton, and New York City. On his adventures, Stranger uses a very unique crossbow to fight his foes. His crossbow utilizes live ammunition, such as small mammals and insects that launch at enemies to deal a variety of different damages and debuffs, offering a pretty decent amount of player freedom in how they want to approach different levels. Other than just shooting outlaws and collecting bounties, there's a good amount of platforming in the game that is done really well and offers a much needed respite from the running and gunning of games on this list. Like most games in the Oddworld universe, the characters and charm of the world are top notch. This isn't your typical grimy and serious toned Western game, it's much more lighthearted and goofy and almost whimsical in a way in how outlandish it is. But still, a lot of that Western tone and attitude seeps into the core of this game, making it a great time to be had. As this game has been released many times, that also includes a great HD remaster that was put out in 2011, 6 years after the release, but even more recently the game has been ported to the Switch in 2020 and looks phenomenal for what is essentially a 17-year-old game. This game has a ton of charm, and I loved it back in 2005 when it came out, and there's really not a downside to checking it out today, as the remasters feel super clean and it's a blast to get into. Like Westerado, this game is available on GOG, and I will link to it below using my affiliate link. Unfortunately, no discount was offered to you guys on this one.
The Grand Inquisitor destroyed the Secret Order, hunted down and killed every last member, all to prove his allegiance.
Last but not least on the list is Hard West, a turn-based strategy game developed by Creative Forge Games, released in 2015 on the PC and in 2019 on the Nintendo Switch. Hard West is like XCOM with gunslingers, with Lovecraftian overtones and a much darker atmosphere, especially when compared to every other game on this list. While there are plenty of normal Western tropes like bank robberies and lynchings, there are just as much supernatural occurrences in this game that make this a truly unique experience, like undead gunslingers, ghosts, and even the devil himself. It reminds me a lot of the tone of Darkwatch. The game to me looks fantastic. Even though tactical turn-based games aren't really my cup of tea, the environments of this game just pop in a really vivid way. The towns and the inner building areas of all feel super detailed and are thoughtful even when they aren't really made to be explored like they would be in a first-person focused game. There are quite a few neat mechanics in the game, like when you get an injury, you become crippled in a way, some sort of stat takes a hit, and yes, you can of course go see a doctor and cure whatever ails you, but you can also ride it out and that injury becomes a scar that offers a sort of buff now in its place, allowing for some interesting role-playing opportunities, incorporating an injury into a character's story. Taking inspiration from Deadlands, the role-playing game, there are many ways to spec out and build your squad to maximum effectiveness. The easiest of ways is with playing cards that can be applied to your character, even allowing for combination buffs if you happen to match the cards you choose with a winning poker hand. In contrast to XCOM, there's no Overwatch mechanic, where if enemies run up to your characters, they sort of fire a reaction shot at them with a chance to hit them. Instead, the enemies get it, making certain moves like aggressive ambushes a really risky affair. Like Stranger's Wrath and Westerado, Hard West is available on GOG, and there will be an affiliate link in the description if you're interested. Use my GOG code for a 90% discount. That makes this game like $2 if you want to check it out. That ends this list of 5 Western games you probably haven't played. I had a great time researching unique titles that follow the tropes of the typical spaghetti Western and use those ideas in a unique way, and incorporated some interesting game mechanics into them to create some memorable games that I think are worth your time if you haven't tried them out. Western games are few and far between over the years, and I'm not sure if there's enough unique titles to make a part 2 of this video, but if you're interested, let me know below. Also, with 2 new Western titles coming out this year, Weird West and Evil West, there's for sure more Western game content to hit the channel. Before we depart, I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon. Shootin with a massive $100 pledge. I appreciate you, you piece of shit. Doug Smith, Anonymous Starkweather, Sofa Palace Productions, Zachary Parkerson, and Crash Bandicoot 25. This video was up a few days early for the Patreon supporters, so if you're into that exclusivity, feel free to drop a few shekels for your boy. You also get Discord roles and all that fun stuff. As always, thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Peace.